Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, looking at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Amber Jones, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Cindy Murray and Kristen Blakely.
Hello.
Hi.
So today we've got an interesting topic. It is how to say no and yes without feeling guilt. And I love how this topic fell on me because I have the worst time saying no in my life, or I just have the worst time being just not just saying no. I have a hard time giving bad feedback or being mean. If I wanted to go on and write a book review, it'd be it's not that bad, but in my mind it's this book sucks. So
Yeah.
so I have a hard time saying no, which is very detriment to things in my life. Relationships with people, I get taken advantage a lot. People know that I have a hard time saying no. Okay. This doesn't go to everything. I have an easy time saying no when it comes to people wanting to borrow money from me.
Oh, me too.
That's a zip. Or I'll go out of my way, if I get a text message or a Facebook message of somebody asking to borrow money from me, I will literally ignore that message for a certain amount of time.
So by ignoring it, is that saying no though?
Well, I'll ignore it. Sometimes I'll outright say no.
Avoiding it.
Yeah, that's not saying no.
I'll ignore it until I'm pretty sure they've asked somebody else.
I'm pretty sure that's how you handle situations, Amber.
Period.
Because
yes.
you're non-confrontational, and you don't like to tell people no.
Yeah.
And so what you do is you'll avoid it until there's a breaking point. And Amber is the type that will cancel at the last minute, knowing full well she probably wasn't going to go in the first place.
Oh, well, sure. Hey,
and
you know
say,
what?
Something
you are lucky I showed up to karaoke the other day, okay?
I know.
Kettle black,
I know,
girlfriend.
that's why I'm saying, because I know
you
Amber.
do that too.
I know, and I know Amber, so...
yes.
But how do you get to the point where you can say no and actually put your foot down and say no and not feel that guilt or that negative feeling, whether it's guilt or not? There's something that's causing that repulsed feeling.
Turmoil.
Yeah.
So so from a psychological perspective, guilt about saying no usually comes from learned beliefs.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. People
shaped
won't like
by,
me if I don't do all the things they want me to do. Yeah.
Shaped by upbringing or the guilt culture of parents. No offense, Cindy.
Yeah.
But even with your book reviews, you don't like to give a negative review because you, as an author, understand what it feels like to have
put yourself out there. Yes.
Well, and you also know what it feels like to get a feedback that's unfair in a negative way too.
Yeah.
Right. So overly critical. So you try to be underly critical, I guess, if that's a word.
Yes.
Yeah. To not offend or hurt someone's feelings.
I get that.
Yeah, and I think that's a bottom line for a lot of things is that I don't want to offend anybody.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And people get really offended if you tell them no.
Mm-hmm.
And as a teacher, and no, don't get me wrong, I'm really easy about saying no as a teacher because it's kids.
Right.
You know what I mean? 5 kids at once. Can I go to the bathroom? No.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just it's really easy to say no as a teacher because kids have these really weird, obscure questions, like, can I have a bite of your food type thing.
Right. They're testing boundaries.
Right.
And
Well,
you as a teacher know what those boundaries are, and you believe
and that
in
was
them.
something I was going to go with, that being able to say no is setting boundaries for yourself. Learning what your boundaries are and what you're comfortable doing and not doing. And you should never feel guilty about saying no, about honoring your own boundaries. So if someone is asking you to do something and it is uncomfortable or goes against your boundaries, you should not feel guilty about saying no. And you do not owe them an explanation. And that's the one that always bugs me, because when I say no to people, and we've talked about this before, I have a hard, fast rule about I don't loan things out. You don't loan money. I don't loan anything.
Well, I don't loan things out either because, and I've told this story before too. I had like this like my favorite book in the world that I had journaled in and underlined and written in the margins and highlighted and really annotated out when I was in high school, and it was one of my prized possessions because it was so very creative. And somebody asked me to borrow the book. I loaned it out against my better judgment because I couldn't say no. And then this girl's house burned down with the book in it.
Yeah.
And that's the last time I loaned out something.
Similar story, but I was waiting for you to drop the other shoe, like they did something intentional. Like, I guess in that case, like she didn't have any control over that, so at least you can forgive her.
Yeah.
When I was in 4th grade, I had my grandmother always bought like these crazy things, and I always had like the weirdest things that my grandma bought me. They used to make these rings that were watches. Do you remember those?
Yes, I love
And my grandmother
those.
bought me a ring that was like a digital watch, but it was a small ring. And
so 90s.
Yeah. And she also gave me a fanny pack because that was also so 90s. And I remember my ring was in my fanny pack. And I stupidly brought it to school in like 3rd grade because, kids do that stuff. They bring those things to school. And I remember bringing my fanny pack to school, and one of the girls at school said, "Can I borrow your fanny pack?"
Oh.
And me being naive was like, "Yeah, you can wear my fanny pack because it's cool, right? I have one just like my grandma, like."
Right.
And then she gave it back to me after a recess, maybe 10 minutes later, she gave it back, but my ring was gone.
She stole your ring.
She stole my ring.
Right.
And I have never, forgiven myself for falling for that. And that's what it is. It's not really, it's not always just about the other people. It's I can't believe I was so foolish to... Foolish, yes.
Foolish.
Yes. And so, I also... don't have a hard time saying no, but I also will still give someone, I'll give someone the skin off of my back instead of my shirt.
I will
stupidly overgive things to people and then regret
the book thing, I will buy someone a book rather than let them have mine, because I don't want to let go of mine. I want to keep it. And I've had similar stories. I think everybody has similar stories like this.
Sure.
I have a couple of them. When Kristen was little, I have an aunt who is really close to my age, and she has a daughter that's just a couple of years younger than Kristen, and so I loaned her some of Kristen's toddler clothes, and among them were some very expensive clothes that her grandmother had bought for pageant wear, including a London Fog coat that was very special to us, and several little pageant dresses, and we're talking like the little frou-frou, really fancy little dresses, and I loaned them to my aunt to for her daughter to have cute clothes, and I never got them back, and I was devastated by that. Less so by the pageant dresses. I mean, yeah, it would have been nice to have them for Raina to wear or something.
Did she give them away to somebody
I'm
else?
pretty sure that's what happened.
Or something.
And the
since they
same
were
thing
expensive?
happened with my maternity clothes. When I was pregnant with Steven, I loaned my maternity clothes to my sister's best friend. Never got them back. None of them. Now, did I ever need those maternity clothes? No, because I never got pregnant again.
Principle, yeah.
But it's the principle of this thing. If somebody loans you something, you return it. And that I have a problem with people who don't respect other people's possessions. And back on this same thing, I had a friend. We all had, remember Nintendo NES, original Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
And we had all these games, and this other friend of ours had all these games, and we would swap games, and so that we could, here, I'll give you this game, you give me this game. It wasn't a give, it was a, here, you play this one for a while, and I'll play yours.
Yeah.
And we had some really cool games that we loaned to this other person. Well, his wife was a school teacher, and she did like special ed, and she decided to take their Nintendo. They weren't playing with it anymore, and it had been a long time, and we had never asked for it back. But still, we were getting ready to move here to the Dallas area, and before we moved, I returned all the games that we had borrowed from them. And come to find out, she had taken their Nintendo and all the games that they had borrowed to school and donated them to the school for the kids to use. And I'm like, wait a minute, that wasn't yours to give. It wasn't,
Yeah.
And so I'm, and it wasn't something I could replace because, by then they weren't even making that game anymore, So I just don't, and whenever people ask me, can I borrow? I promise I'll give it back. I'll give it back. I promise. Everybody has said that to me every single time. And there's books that I want people to read, but I've loaned them out and never got them back or whatever. And I'm so over it. And I don't trust people. That's what it is. It's a trust issue now. Because I've been burned so many times by things that were important to me that even the small things are not. And, like loaning out money. I used to loan out money. And I will be the first one to raise my hand and say, I've asked people if I could borrow money. And sometimes not small amounts. But I very carefully choose who I give money to, and it's never a loan. I can't do it as a loan. It has to come from I will give you this money. You do not have to pay me back. I will give you this money. Or in the end, when they try to pay me back, I will tell them, I don't want you to pay me back because I don't want that hanging between us.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing there. And that's why I have to set those boundaries because I don't want that hanging between my friendships. I don't want to have this resentment.
So you just eliminate the possibility of anybody feeling guilt.
Right.
By lowering your expectations.
Right. I lower my expectations. I just assume that they're never going to give it back. So I would rather give it to them so that they don't have to feel guilty about not bringing it back. And I don't have to have resentment towards them for not returning something that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And I'm like, that's how I got to there's one person that I will loan money to, and that's the only person that has ever paid me back from borrowing money from. And everybody else that I've ever loaned money to over the years has disappeared off the face of the earth.
Every
and this
time.
is including family members.
Oh, yeah.
Blocked me or whatever the first time I'm like, hey, can I have that money back? I need it,
Yeah.
and it's just
And
like,
sometimes you're not like just immediately saying, hey, can you pay me back? You're like waiting years and saying, hey, I'm kind of short now. Can I have that 25? Remember that $25 I loaned you? Yeah.
Mhm.
And then they're like, oh, hello. No.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like I feel like, like the exchange of like goods and services is a little bit different. Like it's like Krista and I will go out, like she'll buy me coffee one day, I buy her coffee another day,
Yeah.
or whatever. Like that's different. It's like, no, hey,
Ashley and I do
Kristen,
that.
can I
Yeah.
borrow money for this coffee? But then I always like pay her back anyway. Or like one of us will pay and the other person will Zelle each other or something
Right,
like that.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's different. I think too, like you also have to consider, I mean, in line with the topic of the guilt part is
Right.
sometimes people solicit for, like Amber, going back because I'm still stuck on Amber's first mention of someone messaging her on Facebook, and this has happened to me where someone I hadn't really even
I've
talked
had
to
former students message me on Facebook asking me
and
for money.
it is hard to
Well,
say no, but
And sometimes
you need
those
to.
are not
Well,
real.
and that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You need to say no, but also like overcoming that pressure to feel like you're the bad person for saying no.
Right.
You have to remember that, there's reasons why you're not able to give that person money, right? Or
Yeah.
reasons
Yeah.
why you shouldn't, especially if it's somebody that's just coming out of the woodwork. Like there was this girl that I knew for like a semester at school, and we were not even like call each other on the phone kind of friends. We didn't even have classes together, but I knew her at school, and she found me on Facebook and asked me for money, and I just was like, the
That's kind of,
absurdity of
yeah,
it was like
inappropriate. Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
like a scam for sure.
Well,
and
she
sometimes
was
they are
actually a
scams.
living being person, and she legitimately needed some kind of help, but I don't necessarily know it was money because it was like one of those weird stories that just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But, I said, hey, I don't have any cash because here was my thing. Like, I felt bad. Like, I would hope, if I went down the phone tree and asked for like the last living person that I could think of on Facebook for help, that they'd be able to help me out. And I said, hey, I don't have any money, but I could give you some food,
Yeah.
And she actually came over and accepted it.
Right.
But, it was kind of one of those situations where, like 2 weeks later, she returned.
And wanted
more.
Yeah,
food.
and this time she literally
Oh.
came to my door.
You opened kind of
unannounced.
the floodgates
Yeah.
of like, hey, I can come over to Kristen's and get a meal
And-
anytime I want to.
Well, right, but see, this time again, it was from cash.
Right.
And I think she realized, I got a spot here. So then she just like showed up to my house, and apparently she was living like really far away. So it was really weird that she was
You would
here.
waste gas to drive that far to go get. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was the whole point, is she needed gas money to get back home. And I just felt like the story didn't make sense. So I
Right.
just said no. At this point, I said I cannot. And I had to remind myself that, you can't always help everybody for
Yeah.
whatever reason. What help they need may not be what you have. And by you
And we
trying
talked
to
about-
help people.
We talked about that last week, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes by trying to help people, you actually like are not helping them.
You're enabling them in something
Exactly.
else.
And I had a feeling that's what was happening. And that's where I say sometimes I'm a sucker, because I'll give the skin off of my back instead of my shirt,
Right.
and then I regret it. Like I let somebody, borrow something that was a big thing to borrow, and then you never get it back.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can borrow my car. And then I'm like, why did I say that?
Hey, my
yeah,
ex-husband's
no, never, never,
stealing
never.
my car.
Yeah.
People want to drive my car. I'm like, nope. Oh,
Yeah.
my insurance will cover it if I'm driving it. No, it doesn't. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
No.
I learned
Yeah.
my lesson. Nobody can borrow my car
No.
ever again.
No.
Yeah. So I think that honestly, like, in order for me to not feel guilty, I had to experience both sides of that, like, giving, and then also, like, understanding, like, that my giving wasn't helping, it was rejected, right? In a sense, or maybe it wasn't, I don't know, but it caused more problems. And so then I felt like, okay, here's my boundary. I discovered my boundary, so now I could say, this is what my boundary is.
Right.
And I think like you really can like say no easier. And you can probably all agree with this, that once you feel in alignment with that boundary, it's easier.
It is,
once
absolutely.
you hit that like heartstring or stub toe feeling, you know where that boundary is, and you really know how you feel about it.
Yeah, like everybody has their limits. Like I learned my limit on loaning money and loaning things, and like for years and years and years to feel, to make myself like valuable at work, I pretty much did anything anybody ever asked me at work until like a couple of years ago, or probably like 3 years ago now, I started saying no. But like I worked at my current job for 4 years doing everything that anybody ever asked me because I was afraid that I was going to get fired.
Right.
And like I got to like a point where like I'm valuable here. I'm a good teacher. I'm valuable here. I can say no.
Yeah.
And it's like just the other day, I was texting the principal about something, and she like brought into the conversation out of nowhere about me tutoring after school. And I'm sitting here thinking, I already don't get home until 7 p.m. and stuff because of grad school meetings and everything like that. How am I going to have time to tutor after school?
You don't.
So I was just like, I can't.
Yeah.
Not to make excuses.
And they should have known that. They should have asked.
The first thing I asked was, so how much are you going to pay me?
Yeah.
And then it got in the situation where it was like, oh, well, this is a volunteer X amount of only. And I'm like,
you do realize, right?
Yeah. That's out of alignment with my budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, if I'm going to stay here an extra hour,
my clock
I'm
says
gonna
insufficient funds. Yeah.
Well, it's like, people stay after school for the after school program and they pay them extra. If they want me to stay after school, they got to pay me extra.
They should. Yeah, absolutely. They should. But even then, sometimes don't let that money thing be what makes you say yes. If you are overburdened, there's like there was no way that I could say yes. Yeah, you're basically doing 2 jobs and taking coursework, and doing homework and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you can't. You absolutely can't. I've had similar things like with work. I had to start turning away clients for certain things because, like, here's a perfect example. I get these calls. Will you do airfare? Just airfare for me. And the simple and short answer is no, I won't. It's a waste of my time, basically, because the airlines don't pay me commission. I will sit here and do all this work, and then I get no money for it. I don't care if you're my friend or not. I'm not going to do this because I don't get paid for it. And you can go online and do it just as easily yourself. You get the same prices that I get, right? So I get people who call clients like out of the blue all the time. Can you book me a flight to Timbuktu or whatever? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And I felt really guilty about turning people away because I could charge them a fee, for doing this for them. But it's just so much work to get that extra $5. It's not worth it, I'm just not going to do it. So I don't feel guilty about it anymore, but I did for a long time. I felt really guilty, and I actually let people guilt me into doing it for them. And same thing with other trips. They're shoppers calling around going, I'm looking for a trip to Cabo, in the next 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, what's your budget? Oh, I don't know. How much does it cost? And I'm like, okay, you haven't even thought about this yet. You don't even know how
Do
much it
some
costs.
research. Do some Google.
Right. And we're flexible, or and I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do this back and forth thing. I'm like, you don't even know what you want. And what's going to happen is I'm going to give you an option, and then you're going to say, well, I'd really rather do. And then we'll go back and forth 4 or 5 times, and then you won't even book because you decide it's too much money. And so I'm not going to do that. I only want to talk to people who are serious about booking their vacation. Come to me with an idea of what you want. I want to go to Baltimore for a weekend, and I want to go see this. And this is the weekend I want to go, and blah, blah, blah. And I need a car and flights and a hotel room. I can do that. That is simple, easy. I can even suggest some places for you to go eat, or some sites to go see, or whatever. But don't come to me with this vague idea that you want to go somewhere tropical for vacation, So, it's about protecting yourself, protecting your time, because your time is valuable. Your money is valuable. Your assets are valuable. Even if it's a $5.99 paperback book that you've read a dozen times and the spine is, cracked, it's still valuable. And your relationship to the person who is wanting to borrow from you is valuable too. And it's not worth jeopardizing that over something that you can avoid.
Absolutely. Like every time you say yes to something, you are using a currency, right? What is the cost?
Yes.
Time, energy, emotional bandwidth, or the cost of something else, right?
Absolutely.
So one of the things you kind of have to think about is every yes is a trade. The question is, what are you unknowingly saying yes to?
Oh, yeah.
So that's a food for thought. Like, whenever you find yourself in those situations, like Amber and I often will just passively agree to stuff, and then because we don't want to have that confrontational moment where we say no, what is the trade there? What are we saying yes? So when we get caught up in something that we have to do, that we got roped into, committed to, like tutoring, right? What would the cost be for that, right? You wouldn't get paid for it. That would be less time out of your pocket, less time spent with your spouse, right? A lot of things. Energy. You'd be more tired because that's more hours on the clock.
Yeah.
And so because
more people draining hours.
Right.
So it's not about feeling guilty at that moment for saying no. It's about recognizing why you would say yes or no, and then believing in that.
Right.
You won't feel guilty.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to alignment. When you stop and you think about before you say yes or no, stop and think, is this in alignment with what I'm trying to do with my life? Where is the value in it? Where does this push me closer to the things I'm trying to do, or does it take away from the things that I'm trying to do? And when you look at it that way, then you begin to understand why, it helps you make that decision basically. And if you can say without a doubt that saying yes or saying no is in or is not in alignment with what I'm trying to accomplish, then there is no guilt. There is no guilt because you know that you're protecting something that you're trying to do. And I think that's the first question is before you answer yes or no, ask yourself, does this further what I'm trying to do with my life? Is this, if I loan you this $5, is that going to take away the $5 that I was going to put in my coffee can to save for my trip to Jamaica next year or whatever?
Right.
And
because you're budgeting and trying
to be responsible
financially forward,
right.
and someone else is, maybe being irresponsible,
being reactive or whatever. And then you also have to ask yourself, what is in it for this other person? So, there's a big campaign in Dallas about not giving money to panhandlers on the streets.
Yeah.
And because we have a really bad problem with people begging at street corners here. And
man, I can this is like a completely different episode. I can
know.
go into
right.
completely why Texas has so many panhandlers.
I know.
Other states ship them to us. Okay, go on.
Okay, we're not getting into conspiracy theories here.
No, it's true.
No,
you can look it up online. It's totally true. Not Florida.
Everything
California. No, it's. I will get you some sources.
Okay. All right, you do that. I want to see it. But my point being, is that a lot of us are brought up in the Christian faith that you help the poor, you help the downtrodden. There's the text in the Bible that talks about the angel visits, and by feeding this person you have helped an angel without knowing it or whatever.
You could, yeah,
like the story of Lot. Right. And so there's this religious guilt that we have over not helping them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to look at what's going on with these panhandlers. So, number one, their reason for asking for money may not be to get food or clothes or to take a bath or whatever. It might be to buy drugs. And so then you're just helping this person buy more drugs that are killing them. Number two, these people sometimes, and I'm not saying all of them, but sometimes this is the way these people make a living. And what happens is that they've seen these cases where this woman is panhandling with her children on the corner. And then
gets in a fancy car.
She gets in a really fancy car and drives away. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you really don't ever know what the true story is there. So be judicious,
This is kind of interesting because I went to a restaurant the other day with my mother-in-law, and it was a restaurant in a small town, kind of a near Waxahachie type area.
Okay.
And they have this program at the restaurant, or it's like a program at restaurants around or whatever, that it states on the wall if you need a meal, we will provide it for you.
And that's helpful.
And my mother-in-law was so moved by what it said on the wall and everything that she wanted to buy somebody's next meal, donate some money or whatever. And the woman that owns the restaurant, and she was just well, you can, but I'll tell you this, or she didn't not own the restaurant, she worked there. She was I'll tell you this, that it's the same people that come in every day looking for a free meal, and then they will get in their Mercedes and leave
because they're taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
And and that you don't know. And Carolyn said for something similar, you don't know their situation or whatever. But if it's every day,
right?
They very well could be living out of that Mercedes.
Right.
But
And that the woman with the children in the car, again, she could be. But it's an expensive car. So she could sell that car
and buy a cheaper
house. And buy a cheaper car. She wouldn't be able to buy a house for the price of a car. But
she could rent.
But she could rent. She could, yeah, that expensive car, that Mercedes or whatever, you could get enough money off of that and buy as Dave Ramsey would say, a $2,000 beater, right? and drive that around to get you to work, or ride public transportation.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we've gotten off like topic like a
Right.
little bit.
Well, that's
because
true.
we're talking about like how to say no and not feel guilty.
I
And
wanted
that's-
to touch
yeah.
on what before y'all were going into rants of people driving fancy cars.
Well, and my point on that was that don't feel guilty, because it's
right.
yeah.
So when you were talking about like what verse you were mentioned in the Bible,
Right.
You know, one of the things to keep in mind too is that Jesus didn't say yes to everyone either. A lot of
he
times
didn't.
he withdrew, and he prioritized the mission over the moment. So you have to remember, not every need is your assignment.
That's true.
Either.
Also, yeah.
So like if this is a fate-driven world, right? And you're destined to hit your goals and succeed, then just remember that not all side quests are your side quests.
That's true.
Too. So don't feel guilty if side quests pop up, because they may not actually
Not
be
all
a side
burdens
quest.
are yours to carry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not all your burdens are yours to carry.
Yeah. And you know, and the title of this is how to say no and yes without guilt. That going into that, also go back to that alignment thing. Is there something that is being asked of you and it is in alignment with you? Don't feel guilty about saying yes to it, even if it puts a hardship in a different place. Because if it's in alignment, you want to take those opportunities. Don't be afraid to say yes to something that might be a challenge, or that might put you in a momentary hardship of time, like saying yes to going to grad school. I mean, you thought
saying yes because you chose yourself over.
Yeah, don't
lot of
feel
things.
guilty
Yeah,
about
choosing
saying
yourself.
choosing
Yeah.
yourself. Yes. Over, this is going to take time away from your family. These extra hours at work are going to be hard on your family at the moment, but the extra money that you're saving will get you out of debt faster. Things like that. Saying yes to cooking all your meals at home instead of going out. So it's a yes and a no.
And honestly, that is one thing that's been really challenging, because I also don't feel like I should have to explain myself.
Right.
And I know that most people, when you do something outside of your normal behavior, they feel like they need an explanation because they don't understand.
Right.
And it is challenging whenever, someone will say, hey, let's go out to eat. For example, I have a friend that I used to go out to eat with like every Friday. We used to go out to eat, or we would call it in. And man, let me tell you, we chose like the worst food.
Right.
And for health reasons, obviously, a good reason why we don't do it, but also for financial reasons. And, I just really haven't been eating out. And the last time I ate out something, I was not feeling too hot. So it's kind of like, okay, there's quite a few reasons why I'm choosing not to eat out, but I also should not feel guilty for not explaining myself. Like I shouldn't feel the need to explain myself. And so I think that, just standing firm in your belief, and, if someone really needs to understand why, then sure, explain it. But I shouldn't have to argue.
No, not argue.
Or defend
and that's the
my
difference.
reasoning either.
That is the
and I
difference.
think explaining myself is one thing, yes. And defending my decision is
a different thing. Yes. And that's what I was talking about before, is that I often have to defend my position about loaning things out or whatever, because people, they insist on trying to convince you to do what you've decided. You've set this boundary, and you should not have to defend your position. Now, but that's not to say that you shouldn't offer an explanation just so, I mean, sometimes that helps smooth over a conversation, like, especially if somebody's asking you for money or something important to them, offering a simple explanation that they can understand is a kindness, basically, because then they can walk away without feeling like they need to convince you otherwise. So, yeah, I mean,
I wish I could remember the guy's name. But we had a seminar at my job because we had this problem. I work in a dental company, a major dental company with 1,000 or hundreds of dental offices, almost 1,000. And so lots of employees. So if you can imagine, thousands of patients. And most people, their main expectation, their primary expectation is you go to get a checkup and you get a cleaning, right? And that's the basics, right? And unfortunately, that's actually not what most patients receive on their first visit.
Right.
So if it's been a long time since you had a dental cleaning, you might need a deeper cleaning. You may need some other dental work before we can do a cleaning. You may have health problems that prevent us from doing a cleaning. And sometimes insurance doesn't pay for it on the same day as the exam. So there are going to be times where we cannot perform a dental cleaning on the same day as the first patient visit. And that has been like the bane of my existence since I started working there.
Sure.
Because when I first started working there, on my first day of training, the lady who trained me said, all right, we're going to set things straight. When patients come in for their first visit, they do not get cleanings on their first visit. And that was like a hard no.
Oh.
And so we set that expectation. No, we do not do cleanings on the first visit. But then there was like 1 or 2 offices that would
still do
it or like make, space for it to happen. And now our company has changed the model. You're probably thinking, well, that was not a very good business model, right? But we set the bar low and then people got their cleanings, right? So, but it helped us make sure that people were not getting expectations for things that we couldn't fulfill. And so now we do say yes. In most cases, we say yes to same-day cleanings. And it took us probably about a decade to get to that where we have like almost every office on board doing that. And one of the seminars that we had when we first introduced yes to same-day cleaning, because as you can see, a lot of dentists didn't want to say yes, and a lot of office managers and, the girls at the front desk, because they are so used to saying no.
Right.
It's easy to say no when it's easier just to not do it, right? Because then you can just push something off until a later day.
Right.
Bottom line. So when we started saying yes, there was all of these yes, but, and no, there's a lot of pushback. So we had this guy come back to the seminar. Sorry. Long story short, this guy came and he did a seminar, and I wish I could remember his name, but, he was like a TED Talk guy, and we did this activity called Yes and.
Oh yeah. I love the ands.
Yes. And it was so cool because we learned how to shoot someone's bad idea down as leaders without shooting them down. So give me something like really absurd. We're going to go to a picnic, and then you say yes and say something crazy.
And we're going to shoot off bottle rockets in the middle of the city.
That's so funny. Everybody always goes for fireworks. So I say yes. And we're going to make sure that there's a city code that allows it.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So see, I didn't shoot your idea down, but I put a little bit of logic in there. I don't feel guilty about telling you, like, that was a really stupid idea, right? Right? But, and you also don't feel bad for providing, like, input.
Right.
And saying, like, something that was just absurd, right? So I'm saying, like, yeah, let's do it, and we're going to make sure it's safe.
Right.
And that really helped me realize, like, even, like, being a mom, being a spouse, being a friend, at work, I've used that so many times now, instead of just like, no, I don't want to do that, or no, I don't like that.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes I still do that because I'm just like that, but
No comment.
I know. I still do it, but it's I think that helps
Yeah.
not feel guilty about turning down something that you're
Right.
not in alignment with too.
Right.
Because you're providing like an alternative solution or something added to it that makes it better,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if somebody is asking for something, like asking for help, that one's a little tough. Like, yes, I'm going to help you, but I'm going to get someone else to help you. You know, that works too. You know, I think that helps take away the guilt. It also lets people know you're still vested in them.
Right.
And that you value them.
Right.
And that you're not just saying no. And, you know, so like if my friend said, let's go out and eat, you know, really bad fried food, I could say yes, and I'm going to get the salad.
Yeah. Right.
Well, there you go.
No guilt.
No guilt.
I
No
don't
guilt.
have to explain
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think that's the big thing, is knowing what your boundaries are and being willing to stick to them, and being willing to give an explanation but not have to draw a line in the sand or
Mm-hmm. Compromise.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You can find a compromise. You can say, yes, I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do this. And it doesn't have to be and. It can also be but.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm going to go to grad school, but you're going to have to cook the meals for
Mm-hmm.
the next month or two till I get used to this or
Mhm.
whatever, Yes, I'm going to go to grad school, but it's only going to take 2.5 years.
Yeah. We
And-
got this. Yeah.
And we've got this. Yes, we can do this. And it's going to give us more money in the
Mhm.
end or
Mhm.
whatever. So yeah.
Theoretically.
Right.
Huh?
Theoretically. Yeah.
Theoretically, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the key there, and making sure it's in alignment with you. Whatever you say, make sure it is in. I like that word alignment because it's it encompasses a whole lot of things. What are your goals for this year? What are your goals for the future? What are how does your family operate? What are the needs of your family? What are the needs of your budget? So keeping things in that alignment, keeping them where they flow nicely together, and that this is whatever you're being asked to do is not a contradiction to what you're trying to accomplish.
Sounds good. So, what are we talking about next week?
Well, we are approaching in the next couple of weeks Teacher Appreciation Week, so we thought we would talk about how to prepare for that ahead of time.
Fun. Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on all of our platforms. Send us an email. Let us know your tips on saying no without feeling guilty. info@modernmusings.net. And we will talk to you next week.
Bye.